Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans number 41. I'm Fred Green. Don't you just love it when you complete a swing knowing it was what you've been trying to achieve? How about when your playing partners chime in with, "Nice swing"? But how often does that really happen? Well, let's increase those numbers while dropping the important ones like your score. Today our guest is Kirk Jones of smartgolfcoach.com. He mentions a URL in the show, but that's no longer operational. So if you want more from Kirk, who's in Jacksonville, Florida, then go to smartgolfcoach.com. Now, it's possible that you've seen Kirk on the Golf Channel or have heard of his book, The Golf Swing Modernized and Simplified, which is what we're going to discuss today. Golf Smarter Mulligans is brought to you by twoguyswithgolfballs.com. Oh, golf balls. You ever get gifts of golf balls? Of course you do. I remember getting a gift. Somebody gave me a box of balls, and I was like, gee, thanks. You just gave me something you know I'm going to lose. Well, that's the problem with golf balls. Not when they're a gift, but when you have to buy them yourself, which most of the time you do, you have to buy balls that are new, that are expensive. Well, you don't. You really don't. You should be buying your balls from twoguyswithgolfballs.com because they have premium used golf balls at a fraction of the cost of new ones. And you can choose whatever ball you'd like. They have an incredible selection that they receive from golf courses all over the country. And when they receive them, they hand inspect them and then grade them for quality. Now, you're probably looking for the Eagle quality because that's like playing a brand new ball. If you want a ball just for practice, then get the par quality. But don't use those when you're competing with your buddies. Use the Eagle quality ball because those are just like brand new balls. Now, how is a used ball like a brand new ball? Well, think about it. When you pull a ball out of the sleeve for the first time, tee it up and hit it, that is a used golf ball. And sometimes that used golf ball is going to end up in the bushes or in the water or plugged and you can't even find it. Well, the experts at twoguyswithgolfballs.com have been able to secure those balls that are just left there, and then they grade them, sanitize them, and send them out to you. So check them out for yourself, save a lot of money, and save even more money when you use Golf Smarter at checkout. You'll save an additional 10% every time. Check out their memberships, check out their donations, but check them out today. twoguyswithgolfballs.com. Use Golf Smarter at checkout and save an additional 10% every time with every order. twoguyswithgolfballs.com. Welcome, Kirk.
Well, good morning, Fred.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. I understand you're on vacation. I appreciate you spending time with us, taking your time out of your vacation to talk to us.
No better time. We got the waves crashing in the background, and it's a beautiful scene.
Oh, all right. I'm on my way. Kirk, why do some people think golf is easy?
Well, if somebody thinks golf is easy, they're a little bit crazy because golf is the most precise sport there is in the world. I mean, you can be so close to perfect and so far away. So in that sense, it's not that easy, but it can be easier to learn than we previously thought.
Oh, so that I can fire that teacher?
Yeah, if you're having troubles, then maybe you need some different advice.
No, it's just that if I'm working with this one specific teacher and I finally have a decent swing, he goes, "See, golf's easy." Like, I don't think so. It just
I guess the word easy would be a matter of perception, and a lot of things in terms of a student-teacher relationship are perceived.
Well, your video, The Fundamental Golf Swing, Modernized and Simplified, can you explain the title, how you came up with it, and what the video is all about?
Well, Fred, when I ask people what's the best book ever written on the fundamentals of the golf swing, the most popular answer is Ben Hogan's book, which was written about 50 years ago. And we've learned quite a bit since then. We have new technology that allows us to better understand the information and to define the principles and the fundamentals of the golf swing better than ever before. I think the golf swing and its technique has become too diluted. There's too many theories out there and too many concepts to choose from, and they tend to lead us away from the fundamentals. And what we need to do is define the fundamentals better and use some of this technology, such as ball flight law data equipment that I use that proves things. So what we need to do is prove and define the fundamentals of the golf swing, and then take that and learn from that. I mean, we have to simplify it. It's just way, way too complicated. That can be made a lot simpler.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well,
how can you simplify this? Every single person that I ever see swing a club looks completely different.
That's true, but everybody's got deviations away from fundamentals, which we call compensations. And what I've done is I've defined 4 in-swing skills, if you will. Once you're set up like a pro, of course, we need to have a good grip, posture, alignment, distance from the ball, all the fundamentals of the setup before you can actually make a good swing. But once you begin the swing motion, I've broken it down into 4 simple positions. And that would be the start of the swing, which I call the set, and that's halfway into your takeaway, and then loading the backswing, which is kind of like drawing back a bow and arrow. You want to develop a nice coil and a position at the top of the swing that's correct, so that when you swing into the finish of the swing, you don't have to compensate. And the third skill is the transition, which is the move from the completion of the backswing to the start of the forward swing. And then the fourth skill is what I call the balance point, or the finish of the swing. And that's about as simple as you can make it. I've seen the fewest I've seen is 8 in-swing principles. And to me, that's too many. It takes 1 second to swing a golf club. You can't think about that much, and you really can't even think about the 4 in-swing skills. If you get past the first one where you have it set good, then really you can eliminate that. So all you're doing is making a backswing and a forward swing, and it can't get any simpler than that.
So in these 4 elements of the swing, if you have one that's incorrect, will it screw everything up?
It certainly can. If you have a problem at the beginning of the takeaway, you need to fix it by the time you get to the top of the backswing. If you don't fix it by the time you get to the backswing, then you got to fix it by the time you get to impact. I mean, but the bottom line is the ball doesn't care about how big and strong you are or how smart you are. It responds to the club head movement through that ball. And there are 5 laws that dictate flight that we should really be concerned with, and those would be your club head speed, that's a function of distance, your swing path, your club face angle at impact, which are primarily responsible for direction, your angle of attack, which has a little bit of something to do with trajectory, and can cause, if you have a poor angle of attack, you hit fat shots, thin shots. And then you have your centeredness of contact, which is your feel-good law. People respond to that quite often. If they don't feel like they hit it solid, then they start to make what I call athletic instinctive adjustments in order to fix it. And oftentimes these become what I call paradoxical athletic instinctive adjustments, when we do exactly the opposite of what we should be doing to correct the flaw.
Okay, so now you're not getting so simplified anymore, because we were talking about those 4 fundamentals, and all of a sudden we're on 5 laws of the ball flight here.
Right, because the ball flight is ultimately what teaches you about what you do right and what you do wrong. And it provides 100% accurate analysis if you're using ball flight law data. But if you have the non-compensated swing, then you can work on the ultimate goal, which is visualization, imagination, and feel. All great players play by visualization, imagination, and feel. They're not thinking about their swing. And what I try to do is take it from technique to feel as soon as possible. And when people understand ball flight laws, then they can become great self-correctors. In other words, they hit a bad shot on the course, they know exactly what went wrong, and they can go right back into their normal fundamental technique. So we build technique first, but the understanding of ball flight laws really allows somebody to become a great player, and it's not that complicated. Again, what's happened is we've become so diluted, so nobody knows really what to think about and what to believe in terms of golf technique. Well, laws are laws. These are the scientific components of ball flight and the factual things that we can prove. So if you take a great-looking swing such as Adam Scott, he could probably hit just about any shot he wants to hit, high or low, straight, left to right, right to left, using almost the same technique. His swing really doesn't have to change very much to hit any type of shot because he's got a very great fundamental technique.
Do you have a physics background at all?
My father was a science teacher.
Okay. So this stuff makes sense to you?
Well, this ball flight law stuff, the technology came around about 7 years ago. I started using it. I'm the first golf professional I know of who uses that technology indoors, or started to use it back then. It's become more popular now as people come to realize that this is the provable stuff, and it gives us tangible evidence of improvement. In other words, if somebody increases their club head speed by 5 miles an hour, we know that 1 mile per hour, comparing apples to apples, contact, and all that other ball flight law information, that you're going to gain 2.1 yards per mile per hour. So if you pick up 5 miles per hour in speed, you can gain 11 yards in distance. So this is very important information, and it gives people the foundation of what golf technique is all about, instead of stuff to be distracted by, such as, your shoulders turn 20% more than your hips, or, garbage that just does not lead the golfer to become a better ball striker and have an intimate knowledge of their ball flight and what it's telling them about their swing.
So we're talking about swing fast, not swing hard?
That's right. What I teach is what we call effortless power, and most people have powerless effort. They're swinging too hard, and they're not getting anything out of it because everything's out of sync. The components of the club, arms, torso, legs, they're not working together, and that's what we call powerless effort. When everything's working together, it feels easy, and you never feel like you're swinging super hard, and you can maximize your club head speed through that technique.
I'm compelled to go back to your fundamentals on the first 4 points you were talking about.
Okay.
The set, takeaway, transition, and balance point. And I want to know is that a progression that has to stay in order, or if number 3 is out of whack, is everything out of whack?
Well, you got to start with number 1, because if number 1's out of whack, then it affects number 2.
It does progress.
Yes, but if somebody loads the swing good, let's say they started a little bit goofy. It's not perfect. I'm not looking for perfect, but I'm just trying to get each individual to understand what perfect looks like. I use life-size video to achieve that, and then I can draw on it so you can see where you are relative to these positions in the swing. Now, you can mess up the set and fix it by the time you get to the top of the backswing, and that's not such a bad thing. So, if you're in a good position at the top of the swing, then I call that a position of opportunity. Now you've got a chance to swing through the ball to a good balanced finish with the effortless power and the non-compensated swing, and you can be very successful even though you have a little problem right there at the beginning. However, if you get in a bad position at the top of the swing, now you've got problems. You've got to fix it by the time you get to the ball, and that makes it very difficult. And, oftentimes what happens is people are out of sync early in the golf swing, like almost as soon as we started away, if not before. And then once you're out of sync, it's very hard to get back in sync. So that's why these skills are so important, is to create that effortless power swing where everything's working together and everything's moving the right amount at the right time.
But it's not your goal, or is it even possible to create the exact same swing on everybody? Everyone's going to have their own variations, correct?
That's right. Everybody's got what I call natural tendencies, and we have to understand what those are and how they affect your ball flight or your progression in golf. What I'm trying to do is get people to learn as fast as possible, and I move them through these skills as quickly as I can.
Really?
And what I do is I test them in a couple different ways. And I've had amazing results in people with awful-looking golf swings developing great-looking fundamental swings in a very short period of time using this method.
What do you think is the most common error in those 4 fundamentals that you see that you need to correct?
Well, the most common error is what I broadly define as wasted motion, and basically meaning that people's bodies are ahead of their arm swing. They do too much with their body and not really in tune to their arm swings. The arm swing basically is what controls the club path and the club speed and the club face angle at impact, and then we've got to connect that body together with it so that body turn becomes a power source ultimately. The biggest flaw is overuse of the body. Over-the-top swings, out-to-in swing paths are very common, and that produces the pull slice or the pull hook or the weakest of all ball flights, which is a push slice.
And how are you able to show this to your student so they get a grasp, they fully understand what you're trying to correct?
Well, the first thing I do is I put them on a program called P3 Pro Swing. And I work indoors initially. Well, the first thing I'll do is test them outdoors, see how they aim and what they do naturally. And then I bring them indoors, put them on P3 Pro Swing, which picks up all the ball flight law data, which is like the X-ray machine for the golf industry. From that, I can provide 100% accurate analysis and show them what their natural tendencies are. And then I immediately go to life-size video where I project a giant picture of their golf swing up on the big screen, and then I can slow it down and draw on it and show them how they take it away and how they get to the top of the swing and how it starts down and how it finishes. So there's nothing left to chance. You're seeing what I'm seeing, and therefore we're not getting anything lost in translation. There's no perception involved. You see what I see. I say it is what it is. Then we can move toward fundamentally sound, and that's the goal. Is we want to take a golf swing, define what a fundamentally sound swing is, see what you do relative to fundamentally sound, and then see how you correct it. And then when you're using the big pictures, you can attach what it feels like to what it looks like. So when somebody's making a change, you can see if it's actually changing at all, or and then when it is changing, what it feels like when it looks good. Because what happens with the average golfer taking a lesson is they're out there and they're trying to figure out what the pro's getting them to do, and it feels weird, and they're not hitting it solid, and it's not going straight, so they don't immediately get the result. But when you're working indoors with these life-size pictures, well, first of all, the ball's hitting a screen, so you're not really looking for result right off the bat. You're looking for a better swing. And I go under the assumption that if the swing is better, the golfer will get better. And that's panned out to be pretty true. If I can develop a better looking golf swing, I can develop a better golfer.
Okay. Now, obviously, not everyone can come down to Florida and work with you, but I want to see how the layperson, how the average golfer, the hacker, my buddies, can learn from your 5 laws of ball flight of what their problems are, how the ball flight can help teach them what is going on in their swing that needs to be corrected.
Well, probably the best thing they can do is buy the video, Fundamentals of Golf Swing, Modernized and Simplified, because I've got it broken down into chapters. There's a table of contents at the beginning, and what I would recommend, it's a 2-hour video, is to watch it chapter by chapter. The first thing we need to do as a professional is to prove a swing concept, and that's what I do in the first chapter. And there's a little exercise in there that the golfer can do himself. Then they go to the process of learning, and it tells you about what you're going to experience as you try to get better, what should happen, how to get better. And then I go right into the fundamentals: grip, posture, alignment, distance from the ball, ball position, then the 4 skills in swing, and then how to use technology. It's a very comprehensive video. and it's very well defined. It's I've had great feedback from it. I teach PGA professionals how to teach. I'm conducting seminars in the North Florida area, and all this technology that's available to us now. There's certain elements that are that really get to the point, such as the life-size video. I think you're going to see a lot more facilities use that from now on into the future. And then this ball flight law technology where we can use infrared sensors to pick up the club head movement through the ball. It's very precise. It's great for club fitting, and it's great for telling you, showing you tangible evidence of improvement. If you're changing your swing path by 2 degrees, it'll tell you. You know, if you're out in 6 degrees on the average, and you know the first priority there is to change the swing path, and by law, that is the first priority. We need to have that club head moving into the hitting area on a fairly straight path or a slightly in-to-out path. And that's what we call lag or centrifugal force, and that's where effortless power comes from. So that's where it all begins, and then, you know, we tie it all together like a tidy little piece of puzzle. Once you have a good swing path, then, you know, we work on directional control. That would be your club face angle at impact. Your club face angle at impact is 75% responsible for the ultimate direction of the ball. The swing path is about 20%, and then you got backspin, which counteracts side spin. That's about 5% responsible for direction. So using these laws, everything's provable. And again, that video is very good for people who can't get to me, and I think people can really improve their golf games just by watching it and using the techniques in there, developing the 4 skills, and I even show you how to use your camera and drawing tools to see what I see when I work with my students.
You know, we receive letters from listeners on a daily basis, and if you don't mind, I have a question or two that I'd like to ask you from our listeners.
Sure, that's right up my alley.
Awesome. All right, well, this one comes from Daniel Tapia in Arlington, Texas, and Daniel says that he's an occasional player.
Okay.
He's let me just go ahead and read it. I'm an occasional player. I broke 100 very early and shoot in the 90s mostly, with my personal best being 84. Congratulations. I have the ability to make good shots, but like most golfers, consistency is my problem. I have a very strong swing, some say too strong. When I hit a good shot, I hit it a mile. The thing is, I don't always hit a good shot. What is the best way to control my distances? Should I just wail away and readjust my distances, or do I need to slow my swing down and try to be more consistent with lower yardage? What advice do you have? Can you help me reach my goal?
Well, sure. You know, as an occasional golfer, you know, golf's a game that you get out of it, what you put into it for the most part. But if you learn the way that I teach, you get more out of the amount of time that you put into it. And you know, what he's talking about there, the inconsistency comes from, first of all, he doesn't hit it solid all the time, so, you know, your distance control is affected by centeredness of contact as well as club head speed, and also your launch angle, you know, the trajectory you hit it on. Those are things that control distance. So you have to have consistent club head speed, number one, to have consistent distance control. And then you got to be able to hit it within 0.7 of an inch of the center of the club face on a consistent basis. So everything's based on fundamentals. If he's working toward making his fundamental technique more consistent, then he can be more consistent. But almost every golfer that comes to me, that's one of the big things they want. They lack consistency. Well, every time they hit a bad shot, what happens is we start to tinker. We start to adjust grip, we start to change our swing path, and these things really lead to inconsistency. So my advice is to make sure that he's working on things that he knows are fundamentally correct, and that he's not making changes that are just based on tip-of-the-day type information, such as, you know, picking up something out of Golf Digest or whatever. You have to have a clear concept of your fundamentals, and you have to work toward developing consistency with those. You know, let's take, for example, just distance from the ball. If you're hitting a 7-iron and, you know, one time you get up and you're standing 24 inches from the ball, and the next time you're 27 inches from the ball. Well, that's about enough to miss the club head in its entirety. So you have to be very, very precise, and that's what this ball flight law stuff has taught me a lot about, is how exacting golf really is. I mean, you have to be perfect. I don't think is even achievable. Obviously, you watch Tiger Woods, and he misses many fairways during a typical round of golf. Well, that doesn't mean that Tiger needs to change his swing too dramatically. That means his club face angle at impact's off by a couple of degrees, and when you hit the ball with a lot of club head speed, the farther you hit it, the harder it is to find. So, for instance, if you're 1 degree off with your club face angle at impact from 180 yards, that's about 4 yards offline. That's 16 feet. Well, 2 degrees, 8 yards. 3 degrees, 12 yards. All of a sudden, somebody's trying to make an adjustment, whereas I would call that a timing issue. Just having your club face angle at impact off a few degrees is not a cardinal sin, and it's not a function of technique. It's just a function of golf, and the preciseness involved with golf technique. You just can't be perfect. So working on the right things and being sure that you're working on the right things will lead this player to better consistency down the road.
Thank you very much for answering that. I get the sense you're a very, well, I don't want to say very, you're linear versus abstract. You're more of a guy who's going to use Excel than you are Photoshop.
When it comes right down to it, I'm a technology numbnut. I'm not very good on the computer, but as far as technology and how it relates to golf technique, I'm an expert in the field. I've used this ball flight law data for several years now, and I know it probably better than anybody in the industry. As a matter of fact, the PGA Teaching Manual, which is the book that a lot of PGA professionals learn from, is a hodgepodge of theory and different concepts, and what I'm looking to do is to get this PGA Teaching Manual to be more well-defined using the provable aspects of what we've learned in the past 20 years or so. The ball flight law information in the PGA Teaching Manual is incorrect or incomplete, I should say, and needs to be rewritten and redefined. And then just the fundamentals of the swing need to be well defined. I mean, everybody feels like your general consensus is that an Adam Scott or, we know what a good swing looks like. Why aren't we teaching that swing to just about everybody? Because I'm amazed at how well people can learn that Adam Scott type swing if they're taught that swing exclusively and correctly right from the get-go. We don't get them distracted by, techniques like, say, stack and tilt, which is basically a reverse-type pivot move that is good for short irons because it addresses, angle of attack issues. And it would be very difficult for somebody that lacks flexibility to perform that type of technique. So these different techniques that are out there, they apply to certain flaws and certain tendencies. The problem is the average golfer doesn't know what flaws or tendencies they have or what technique to apply to their problems. So each individual has to understand fundamentals and, what their swing looks like and what's important in their swing, what we need to prioritize in order to get better faster. That's what it's all about.
What kind of weight in your training that you provide do you put in the mental part of the game?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
The mental part of the game cannot really be that important until the physical part of the game is well grooved. In other words, confidence is built on fundamental technique as the foundation. And I recently did a seminar with a gentleman named Steve Bann who teaches KJ Choi and Stuart Appleby. He founded the Victorian Institute of Sport golf program in Australia. And Steve says they put a number on building confidence. And they say the first 30% is built on technique. Well, the average golfer never gets past the ability to build upon that first 30% because they're always struggling with technique. Well, once we can get your technique decent, then we can develop the next 60% of confidence, which is through skills tests. And a good example of skills tests would be if somebody hits a high fade in general. That's their natural ball flight. What Steve would do, and what I would do, is try to get them to hit a low draw. And we'd say, we're going to have a field goal out there at 150 yards. You got to hit it between a 10-yard field goal post 3 times in a row with a low draw. And once you perform these tests, what happens is you can hit any shot. You're not afraid to hit it high with a fade or low with a draw or try to hit it straight or any ball flight you feel you have command of. Then you've got 90% confidence. And you really don't need the sports psychologist per se so much when you've got great technique and you feel you can hit any shot at any time. That confidence is built upon that. And the last 10%, he says, is built in competitive environment where you get in a position to win a golf tournament. And, obviously, most people go through some choking when they reach a milestone, say even if it's break 80 or shoot par for the first time. We know we're a couple under coming down the last few holes. Things start to tighten up, and the technique tends to deteriorate a little bit under pressure. So that's how we build the mental side of the game. It's really built upon the physical first. So you've got to have a good swing to even think about the mental aspect of the game. I kind of get a kick out of it when I hear somebody say that golf's 90% mental because most people never get past the point where they can build that confidence because they're always struggling with technique.
Do you see it as building blocks?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Real quickly, I've got another question that came from Rolf Olson in London, England. Basically, he says, I regrip at the top of my swing and just can't figure out how to stop myself.
I just worked with a gentleman who was doing that the other day. The first thing I would do if he's a right-handed golfer, Rolf, is look at your left-hand position on the golf club. And in my DVD, I stress that left-handed grip for the right-handed golfer is extremely important. And if we've got that left hand on there very solidly, that club should never come loose in your hand. People who break down at the top of the swing, get a little wristy and get a little long and loose will tend to re-grip or lose their grip at the top of the swing when they transition to the forward swing. When I define wrist cock, that occurs when you reach the top of the backswing and you start it forward, and it's a function of accelerating the club from a backswing motion through a forward swing motion that it really happens naturally and automatically when a good golfer swings a golf club. Well, when somebody's out of position and they've got wasted motion, then the hands can come loose. So what Rolf really needs to do is first address his grip and then address, setting and loading the backswing correctly. And then he won't have those problems with re-gripping at the top of the backswing.
Rolf, I hope that helps. And this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. It's not a topic we generally go to. I think that people, if they're having issues with their mechanics, they need to go and work one-on-one with a teacher. So we do talk a lot about the mental part of the game here and seem to have provided a lot of great results for people. But, Kirk, I think that you've really you've turned this into a science, and I appreciate that. Why don't you let people know, once again, the name of the video is The Fundamental Golf Swing, Modernized and Simplified, and how can they find it and how much is it going to cost them?
They can find it at kirkjonesgolf.com, and it's Kirk Jones, Jones, golf.com, kirkjonesgolf.com, and it's $40, and it will be the best $40 a golfer can ever spend because, again, I believe, and all the pros that I've had come to my seminars and whatnot, and all the students I've had that have purchased the DVD have loved it. It's very defining. It gets rid of a lot of the confusion that exists in the golf teaching industry, and it gets to the point. It's the future of golf. We're going to learn more about these laws and how they relate to our improvement. And when it boils right down to it, I make it very simple. It's well worth taking a look at over and over again. And what I recommend people do is, if you don't understand a chapter, stop, go back to the beginning, watch it again. It'll become crystal clear, and now you can build the mental aspect of the game, because now you understand the swing, you understand your swing, you understand how to improve, how to hit different shots, and then you can become a great player.
I completely agree with you. It's a great place to start. It's definitely something you want to have in your library as part of your foundation for your game.
Yes, indeed.
Kirk, thanks so much for spending this time with us. I appreciate it.
I enjoyed it, Fred. Thank you very much.